Hey, welcome to Whitefields Community Church Sermon Extra. Great to have you once again with us this week. And we are in our series, Desiring the Kingdom, and looking at the books of 1st and 2nd Kings. I'm here with Pastor Nick Cady, who's the pastor of Whitefields Community Church here in Longmont, Colorado. And if you missed his sermon on Sunday, you can go to whitefieldschurch.com. You can download it there. And of course, you know, it's available on YouTube, Facebook, and all your other favorite podcast platforms. And if you would, give us a like, a subscribe, rate and review if you can. It just really helps out this channel and our, you know, this Christ-centered, gospel-centered content getting out far and wide. People asking questions about the things we're talking about, you know, our answers will show up in their searches. And so that's what we'd like to do. And if you can help us in that, that would be great. But we were in 2 Kings chapter 11 and chapter 12, and it was the title of the sermon was The Seed of the Kingdom. And you covered a couple, you know, of very good topics, but one of the ones that you touched on was the importance of discipleship and mentorship. And we have this young king who is saved. You know, that's a whole story in itself. Maybe we'll get to that a bit later. And, you know, in Joash, and then we have his mentor, the priest, Jehoiada. And just the whole idea, the importance of mentorship. And, you know, we were, you know, as we were preparing for this podcast, we were talking today just about, you know, there's been a lot of high-profile people falling into sin, falling into what they call moral failure, or whatever the politically correct word is for it today. You know, like Carl Lentz. Is the kind of celebrity pastor of Hillsong, New York. And, you know, even within our tribe, you know, Bob Coy, who was, you know, Calvary Chapel, Fort Lauderdale. And just the idea of, you know, what happens when the mentor doesn't have a mentor.
Yeah. So, you know, it's been said that it's lonely at the top, right? And I think that's true, but it's also dangerous for people who are in leadership. It's dangerous for people who are in spiritual leadership particularly. And, you know, I think that there has been, you might ask, why have there been so many high-profile pastors who have fallen into moral failure, had to leave their churches, gotten fired from their churches, not even just for sexual things, but for other things as well. And, you know, it's interesting because this idea of the celebrity pastor really is a modern phenomenon. I mean, there were people in the past who were big names like Charles Spurgeon, going back even further. You know, you had like John Chrysostom and people like that who were well known, maybe even famous, you might say. You know, Charles Spurgeon was on billboards in London back in the day, you know, and so you had that, but I think what's different today is that we live in this world of social media. We live in this world of platforms, you know, where everybody's on YouTube and you get these followings. What happens is that a lot of these people almost it seems that as you get to the top, if you're not very cognizant of it or very intentional about it, it seems that what they begin to lack is accountability and mentorship themselves. And so I think it's just a great warning for us. I don't, you know, pretend like, you know, they're just bad people who, you know, I'm made out of different stuff or you're made out of different stuff. I think the potential to do these things lies within all of us. And I think that that's something we need to see in the Bible, that sin is within us. It's an enemy. It lies crouching at the door, you know, like God said to Cain. And so therefore, what do? Well, we take precautions, right? And one of the ways we can take precautions is that no matter what stage of your spiritual walk you are at, you need to have a mentor. You need to have at least accountability, you know, people who really know you. I like one phrase one of my friends uses. He says, you need people who know you best and love you most, who are willing to speak into your life and even challenge you on some things if it's needed, you know. On the other hand, I'm encouraged because, you know, there are a lot of high-profile pastors and ministers who have fallen, but there are a lot who haven't. Going back to our tribe, we have a lot of high profile pastors over the years in Calvary Chapel who have not fallen, and who have been faithful ministers, faithful husbands, faithful fathers for their entire lives, and that's something I'm really glad about. With Chuck Smith and Tim Keller, these are guys who did well, and they're good models for us to follow. But I think keeping this in mind, that we are people who need mentorship, discipleship, we need fellowship. And when that's lacking, you're in the danger zone. Joash, we see there that he was so influenced by Jehoiada in a good way, but then when Jehoiada was gone, he was so influenced by the princes of Judah, is what they're called, in a bad way. So I just think we need to be really careful. We're being discipled all the time by different forces in culture. We need to be cognizant of it, aware of it. And I think there's another part of it too, where you need to know yourself in a way. Like, one person I listened to before, he always said, you need to know, are you a thermometer or a thermostat?
Thermostat.
Thermostat? I'm making up words. Yeah.
Thermostat.
Yeah, that's a new one. Yeah. So thermometers measure the temperature in a room, and they change according to the temperature, right? But a thermostat changes the temperature of the room. It sets the temperature. And I think that you can see that with Jesus, right? He's able to go into these settings where most people probably wouldn't go, maybe shouldn't go. Some people shouldn't, right? Like if you are struggling with alcoholism, you probably shouldn't go and be the evangelist at your local liquor store or bar, right? So you just know yourself, know what your weaknesses are, know what your strengths are. And if you have the strength of character and maturity to be able to go into those places and be a thermostat where you set the temperature, well then great. If not though, be wise. That would be my advice.
Yeah, and the irony of that illustration with the thermometer and thermostat is that many of these high-profile people who fall started out as thermostats, setting the temperature, setting the change. And one of the things that led to them becoming thermometers, was that, they become thermometers at the top. They let the people direct them and guide them, and instead of being that, they lose that edge. So it's something very important to think about. And I think your point you brought up about on Sunday, just that's and you alluded to now. I think it's worth repeating, just that we're being influenced. We're being influenced by not only Sunday morning, that 1 hour, as you said, but Monday through Saturday, everything. Our devices nonstop. They're dinging. They're sending us, information. Anytime you're on the news, anytime you watch football, you're getting bombed, blasted by, things. People want to change your mind about their product, their ideas, their thoughts, their political leanings, their religious leaning, whatever it is. And we have to be wise to, what we consume on a weekly basis. But just going back to Joash, I thought it was quite interesting when you brought up, Revelation chapter 12 and just the imagery. Here we have, it was Joash's grandmother, and I can't pronounce her name right now. Athaliah, that's it.
Yeah.
She wipes out her entire family to grab onto power, and in doing so, she was almost, in a way, probably being controlled by Satan to, eliminate the line through which the Messiah would come. And that's kind of perfectly illustrated for us in Revelation 12, and you kind of hit on that a bit.
Yeah, and I think that you can follow it throughout the Bible, that there's been this thing. So in Genesis chapter 3, we call this a redemptive historical reading of the Bible, right? So you're looking at the Bible with the understanding that the Bible is a story which tells the story of redemption throughout history. And so in Genesis, we see, what do we see? The beginning, the creation, man and God living in harmony, man living in harmony with nature. Then sin comes into the world. The curse comes, a curse of sin and death. Man is separated from God, cut off from the tree of life. And at that time, a curse comes on them, but God makes a promise in Genesis chapter 3, verse 15. It's called the proto-evangelion, and that means the first gospel. And the first gospel is that God speaks to the serpent, Satan, and says that the seed of a woman will be born. Now, the seed of a woman is never a phrase that's used. We always talk about the seed of a man, and I won't go into the physiological reasons, but you can think about it. And the seed of a woman, so a child born of a woman but not of a man, so a child born of a virgin will come, and he will, the serpent will bite his heel, but this child will crush his head. And so, and then it says that that's referenced later on in the New Testament, where it says that the God of peace will crush the head of Satan beneath your feet. And so, so that's the first gospel. So Satan knows that he's on the clock, right? He's like a guy getting pushed into a swimming pool, right? At a party. What do? You grab everybody around you, take them into the swimming pool with you, or try to keep yourself out of the swimming pool. And so Satan, throughout history, trying to stop the plan of God. And the plan of God is that through the nation of Israel. And there's so many places where you can see this. You can see it with Abraham selling his wife to Pharaoh, right? Like, there you go, right there. Abraham loses Sarah. The plan of God comes to nothing through Abraham. And then twice he tries to do it, and God stops it from happening. Even in one case, giving a dream to the king and telling him, hey, this woman is not, she's actually married to that other guy, Abraham. Then you see it with Joseph, that the people of Israel almost die in a famine, but God let this terrible thing happen to Joseph. Why? So that he would be put in a position where he could save the family, but not only save the family, save the promise of God. You see it with the Egyptians rising up to eliminate the people of Israel in the time of Moses. There's a genocide by killing off all their babies. They're gone in a year. In a generation. The Israelites are gone in a generation. You see the Israelites backed up against the Red Sea with the army coming to just slaughter them or take them back into Egypt, and God opens the Red Sea and gets them through. You see them in the desert, and they're thirsty, and God provides for them. So it's this thing where the nation of Israel and the promise of God has hung on like very little at times. It's just hanging on by the skin of its teeth, like with Joash, one guy who's saved as a baby and gets saved, and the whole promise of God, and yet it's fulfilled. It's an amazing, amazing thing. And I think you could say it even continues there in Revelation 12, after the baby is born, after the child who is the Messiah is born to the woman who is Israel, that it says that the dragon, Satan, is still coming after the woman to destroy her. You can see it with the Holocaust. You can see it with all these things that Satan might be doing to prevent the further work of the kingdom, the gospel, and the return of Jesus. But the good news is we know the end of the story. Yeah. We know that God wins, and that in
Jesus
him
comes in victory.
Yeah, and in him we get to be champions as well.
Yeah, no, that's great. If you want to just go over to Revelation chapter 12 and just kind of read that right now and think on those things, just how the promise of the Savior, and, just a little plug for our Advent series, which is starting up soon, and that's going to be, just looking through Scripture at the promise of the Savior, and of course Satan, his desire was that promise would be thwarted, but, God's plans are never thwarted in our lives. And so, read Revelation chapter 12, just let God, build your faith through that, and just through those things that Pastor Nick has kind of mentioned. And there's so many that you think of Esther as well, so many different stories like that, and how God's plans continue to be victorious. And we know, as you said, in the end, Jesus is victorious and will return for his people one day. And we're looking forward to that. And again, whitefieldschurch.com. If you missed our sermon on Sunday, we just kind of touched on a few of the topics that Pastor Nick spoke about on Sunday, and you can subscribe over here, and you can do something else over here. You can download the sermon over here, probably. I don't know. There will be like buttons for you to push, and just push all the buttons on the screen, all right? On the screen. And we'll look forward to seeing you again next week. God bless.